Hello all, and welcome to Steam Trains in Cinema. This is episode 1, and today I'm going to be covering 4 steam locomotives in 3 different movies. Along the way, I'm going to be talking about things I noticed and the history behind each locomotive and where it is today. So let's get started. The first locomotive on my list is Texas and Pacific number 316, a 460 10-wheeler type locomotive built in 1901 by the Cook Locomotive Works in Paterson, New Jersey for the Texas and Pacific Railway. She's seen here in the 1997 TNT TV miniseries Rough Riders, in which she wore 2 different road numbers and makes several brief appearances. What's interesting to note here is in the locomotive's first appearance on screen, she's numbered 40 and is lettered for the Santa Fe Phoenix Prescott line, which is a completely made-up railroad and no such thing ever existed. Another thing to note is the sounds for the locomotive were borrowed from the Sierra Railway number 28, which will be covered in a future episode. In the next scene featuring the locomotive, she's now wearing a fake diamond stack and a headlight similar to that used by the Northern Pacific Railroad. It's safe to assume the shot was done later, as we can see the locomotive is in her Texas State Railroad paint as number 201. Well, now that my nitpicking is done, let's move on to the bigger question. Where is 316 today? As of March 2020, 316 is currently on display with Santa Fe 1316 at the Texas State Railroad Museum, awaiting her restoration. The railroad has also made it public that the locomotive will return sometime in the near future. And speaking of Santa Fe 1316, Santa Fe 1316 in her Texas State Railroad number 500 paint also appears in the same movie.
He's going for the port. They're going to take our boat. It's my ship, Roosevelt! You can't do this to me! What are you doing with that train? Come back here! You Democrat! You'll be ruined in New York, Roosevelt! You hear me? Ruined!
Now, there's not a lot of info I could find on the 1316, but here goes nothing. It was built by Baldwin Locomotive Works in 1911 for the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad. It's a 462 Pacific locomotive, and currently resides on the Texas State Railroad. It was purchased by the New Tourist Railroad in the early 80s, and is their largest locomotive, not counting Texas and Pacific 610. She was a regular passenger locomotive on the Texas State Railroad, pulling trains between Rusk and Palestine, Texas, until about the early 2000s when she was torn down for her FRA-mandated 15-year rebuild. She sat for nearly 2 decades in pieces across the Texas State Railroad property, until recently in early 2020 when she was cosmetically restored as Santa Fe 1316. She will return to operation sometime in the future, as the railroad has stated. Our next locomotive is California Western number 45, a 282 Mikado built by Baldwin in 1924. In this 1984 World War II drama that's relatively obscure, number 45 plays California Western number 44, which was a real 282 Mikado, which actually worked for the California Western. Here's what the real number 44 looked like, and here's what the number 44 in the movie looked like. It's great to see that they took the effort to be historically accurate here.
Here she comes. Come on, Hopper. Race with me. Race with me. Race with me.
In the final scene of the movie, the locomotive is returned to her appearance as California Western number 45. She looks just a little bit different today, but not a whole lot. What stands out to me about this movie, among all the other films on this list, is that the sound designers use the actual sounds of the 45 for the whole movie, which is great. I don't really have much else to say about this movie, so let's move on to where the locomotive is today. As of the making of this video in March 2020, the locomotive is at the railroad's Fort Bragg, California shops undergoing its FRA 15-year mandated rebuild. However, the funds are low, so work on the locomotive is going to be pretty slow. For now, the future of the locomotive is uncertain, but let's hope it has a bright one and returns to pulling trains through the redwoods once more. To end off this video, let's look at one of my personal favorite locomotives, Western Pacific number 94. This is the 94's brief and only movie appearance, but it's worth every second. The history. Number 94 is a 460 10-wheeler type steam locomotive built in 1909 by the American Locomotive Company's Brooks Works. It was delivered to the Western Pacific Railway in 1909 and attended the Golden Spike ceremony at the Ketty Y in Ketty, California. It was also the first locomotive to travel the entire Feather River route. It spent 55 years in operation on the WP, and with the exception of the color of its striping, the locomotive's appearance had never changed in all that time. In 1949, towards the end of steam on the WP, it was decided that the 94, along with 4 other steam locomotives, would be kept in preservation for their historical significance. It's uncertain whether she'll ever run again, as she's in need of extensive boiler work and there aren't enough funds to do so. Hopefully someday someone with enough money will give her the attention she needs in order to get her to run again. Well, that does it for this episode. Tune in next time and make sure to drop me a comment below suggesting what locomotive you'd like to see from one of your favorite movies. In the meantime, take care and check out some of my other videos while you're at it.